We are
Yeah,
live.
live.
All right.
All
We
right.
have. Why do I hear this echo? Do you guys hear that?
If you ignore it, it will go away.
I actually did go away. Cool. That's the fun of being live. We are live here. Breaking news, actually. This is breaking news. We have Eric July of the Rippaverse. And before we even get into your background, Eric, I want you to break the news of how well the launch of the Rippaverse has gone sitting here on Wednesday. And it'll by the time we drop this to the public in a couple days, it'll probably be even more crazy.
Oh, well, as of today, it just crossed into the second day, and we are already at 1.34, almost 1.35 million dollars in sales that we have made, unlike anything that I've certainly ever been a part of. And this is just, man, I just cannot thank people enough for the support.
That is a lot of comics.
Absolutely incredible. And so we'll get more into how you went about starting your own comic book company, what led to the success of this campaign. But obviously we know each other from a little bit more from the political world, and I know your whole background there. But I want to get a little bit more into your background of just being a comic fan and how you got into comics. Maybe touch on what your favorite books were as a kid, and then maybe get into like when things went to get sour with your relationship with the mainstream comic industry. Anyway.
Yeah. So I've been in comics obviously since I was young. I was first introduced by my mother to Flash. When I was coming up, it was Wally's Flash.
Damn right, the one true Flash.
Yeah.
OG.
And oh man, just the fact that it was a character that was fast as a kid, that was my thing. And people that know me, I did track and field all the way through the collegiate level. So obviously that was my kind of introduction. Hey, it's this characters whose power is just to run really, really fast. So that was really cool to me, and that was awesome and fun. And then as I got older, again, it was just at times, man, I was coming up when you had great animation for comic book characters as well. So made it different to digest. So you had like, it was an X-Men animated series was going on, Batman the animated series right before that, Spider-Man as well. Those were incredible. So we often look to those as like peak American animation, and those were coming out during the time I was growing up. So it was very easy to kind of cross into that stuff. And thankfully, continuing to read those as I got older, understanding that even the stories that I reverted back to, picking up on those narratives, concepts that were kind of that were the theme because I was older and able to understand those. It was just one thing led to another, and I became a lifer. And definitely as I got more success going into my 20s, as I was able to actually, pay for the books because it is an expensive hobby. But when I got to that point and diving into it even more, it was such a great feeling until, going to what you were talking about, we started to see a downturn. And I think a lot of that started, you had like New 52, weird stuff going on in 2011 when that whole deal was a thing, and then going into all new.
I saw Superman in jeans, I knew something was up.
Yeah. So you also have like all different Marvel that was happening in the mid 2010s. That was a disaster. And and I don't know if it was the combination of people being more enthusiastic about like other comic book related material, like the movies, Marvel Cinematic Universe, of course, was starting to grow during that time, that made the quality just really, really go down. And as more people became more, the creatives became more and more like obnoxious, like online about how they felt, telling customers how they felt about certain things. It was just really a weird time. And that's how we got to this point to where I was like, I guess I'll do something about it instead of just doing videos and complaining about it. I believe my spot as is in being a creative. That's my thing. Doing commentary stuff is awesome, and I'm never going to stop doing that. However, my thing to me is creation. That's why I do the music. That's why I do all of this stuff. That's why I belong. So it feels good to be kind of contributing in that space, but most importantly, to see people just enthusiastic about comics. People that I especially know have kind of been demoralized with the direction that the industry is going. To see people stoked on comics again, to me, that means the world, to everything it is that I am doing. And it just makes me more and more hungry to give these people certainly what it is that they want.
What do you say to people that would say, well, look, Marvel and DC, all they're doing is responding to an ever-changing demographic. So of course they're going to cater more towards people of different races, to women, because we have a different culture than when these comics started in like the 1940s or 1930s, whatever it may be, when it's
They
primarily
prefer to
white
be
men.
called birthing people, Mark.
Birthing people, I
Please,
apologize,
Be
yes.
better. Be better.
But yeah, what do you say? What's the big deal? I guess is what a lot of people would say with what they've done to a lot of the mainstream characters by making them more diverse.
Yeah, it's like I think the issue is the lack of creativity. I mean, we've seen. I know they like to try to gaslight everybody and act like we don't like female characters or people don't like black characters, and I think considering how it is a creative visual medium, I think the people have only asked for just giving them exactly that. When you see something as lazy as I'm going to take that character that already exists and everybody knows, and I'm just going to swap them into something else and then use that as a means to signal that doesn't, yeah, obviously I can see where that is insulting, but also just from a creative point, it's just lazy. Like what exactly are you doing there? You have this massive pool of money. You're tied to these mega corporations, and the best that you can do right now is take what everybody knows already exists and just change the color of it. Like that's insanely lazy. And obviously, I think a lot of the pushback, for example, that we got, so much is being diffused real time because they had an idea of who they thought we were. Who, when I do a video and I talk about how trash Captain Marvel is, and I detail exactly why that's the case, you know what I mean? They don't actually hear those arguments. They're like, well, he must hate women. So you see someone else, maybe it's a white guy that is critical of something that happened in X movie. Well, it must be because they don't like black people or something. That is a figment of their imagination. And no matter what it is that we said, no matter what it is that we did, they were always going to apply that default. So why they're so angry is that they've had to watch, because of what we're creating here, all those arguments be completely diffused. That was never the argument. And I think they actually knew that, but because they had like control of the old guard, well, they didn't really, there wasn't a whole lot. This is independent comics, but it wasn't as, you didn't have the enthusiasm that you're starting to see grow. And it didn't just start with me, but starting to see grow over the last couple of years. And they're having to watch their arguments be certainly diffused. Nobody has an issue with female characters. Nobody has an issue with black characters. They may have an issue with you smacking them in the face with these superficial, not like insulting customers, acting like, well, only reason we did this is because that black kid or black person, for that matter, can only be legitimized by another black character, like as if I have to only relate to people that have the same skin tone as me. I'm not an individual or anything like that. It's incredibly insulting. But all of those arguments were never right. They knew that. I think they were never correct. And I know it frustrates them to see these arguments diffused.
I think it was a couple of years ago that you started like first really doing a lot of commentary in the comic book space. And I'm wondering, when along the way did you start to get that seed in your mind that, okay, I'm not just going to be a critic from the sidelines. I'm actually going to jump in and get involved and create my own answer to this criticism I'm bringing up. Or is this something that has been inside you? Like, I don't know if you're like me. When I was a kid, I was writing my own comics like in my mind all the time. So I think for a lot of us, we always a lot of us want this. If you're a comic book fan, even if it's never been serious for us.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, like I had the aspirations at some point to do that. Because I've always been a comic guy, but to your point, like it was around like 2017-ish when I first started like publicly like doing doing videos on it and stuff like that. So it's relatively recent. But I always wanted to like actually do something like as far as writing and creativity. It's just that the astronomical kind of growth that we've had over the last like 5, 6, 7 years sped up the process. So something that I thought I wasn't going to be able to do till I was I was like in my 40s, I was already talking about when I was 29. You know what I mean? Because it was like, look, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the right way. So I want to maintain ownership. I want to do this. I knew I had needed a pool of resources to do that. So I was able to get to a point to where financially that was realistic, and I just did it. But I'm not going to sit there and lie and act like the status of American comic books wasn't influential to that. Yeah, I had those aspirations, but that lights a fire under me, or that incentivized me to do it, to watch long time comic lifers be like, this sucks. Watching people have to go to manga for their kind of comic-based outlet, because the American product does not seem to be, or the Western product does not seem to be like good right now. I don't like seeing that. So it was one of those things like, dude, I do think there's a big time market for it, and this is something that I'm passionate about. So I get to knock out, rather two birds with one stone. It's like, yeah, we can make this a successful business venture, but also it's almost like it's not work, though I am working, obviously, because I'm passionate certainly about this. So it worked out for me, and it just goes to show that there's a big time market for this. And this is not just a victory for simply me. This is a victory for other people that want to do kind of take that leap, no matter where they're at on the entertainment sector. I believe they're like, this is such a necessary thing, and we need more people to kind of say, hey, I'm gonna get out there and give it a shot. From the art field, we know where I'm at philosophically. I'm always talking about decentralization and all that, and I believe that's certainly what it is that we need. Yeah, they're probably the day of a billion-dollar corporate entity making this thing, and on the other side of this, we're probably not going to see a lot of that, and I'm perfectly fine certainly with that. More creator-owned projects and people seeing success, still making they can make the money, and they can still be great. They can still do all that. It's just not going to be, I don't know, a freaking phone company that now owns comic books company, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, not to bring this back into the realm of the political, but it does kind of make me think of, the difference between an entrepreneur and like a company being run by management in a managerial style, which is kind of how our government is run as well now too. Yeah. You don't have the people on the ground that really know what's going on. You just have the managerial elite, so to speak. And it seems like when it comes to Marvel and DC, they are no longer entrepreneurial companies. Like Stan Lee is no longer running Marvel. I mean, he's no longer alive. Rest in peace. But these companies are now just being run by board members, people that don't necessarily know anything about comics. They just know we have this properties, we have this IP, and we're going to sell it somehow. And it does seem like the sales of comics have become more marketing for movies, or just something to get you into something else, as opposed to just, this is the actual medium and this is the stories that we're trying to tell. You mentioned something there too about that I never really thought of too deeply before, but the rise and the popularity of manga in the last 10 years or so. I mean, I asked my stepson what kind of comics he wants. It's all a bunch of manga titles I never heard of. And I never really thought about it before, but I wonder if that is even in the youth, even in the young people, they sort of do recognize the staleness of modern American comics. And that's why the popularity of that very different alternative has risen so much in the last few years.
100%. Like manga, it's as far as how they're being wrote, like they're doing the same thing. So some had to change, right? Because it's not like they did anything different. They're doing the same thing, but the demand rose. So I think that there was again, people seeing it for what it was. And think about it. Mangas sell animes, and the anime will sell the manga. Such a relationship does not exist with American Big Two comics. You can have $1 billion movie, and that will not translate to that comic becoming the number one comic
at all.
It won't even be close. You'd be lucky that it will even make the top 50, depending on who that character is. Mm-hmm. And that goes to show that they're not doing it for that. I love what you mentioned, and that's right. You're really nailing it right there. And the fact that it does seem like this is something, even in their writing style, it's like these folks are like, I want to have this adapted in a movie, and I'm going to write it to make sure that it does.
And you get the superhero landing and a splash page, and it's like, okay, you're writing a movie now.
Yes, exactly. So they're not doing it for the medium. They're not doing it for the readers. And this is why, you see the first statement when you go on our website, it says a comic book company for comic book readers, because that's what it is that we're trying to do. Yeah, I would love to at some point venture out into other things, but I want to make comic books for people that are willing to read comic books. And as silly as what they're doing, as much as I might not like it, considering some of the characters that are tied to it, I thank them in some cases, because that's why we've gotten a lot of eyes on what it is that we're doing. It's because people are fed up and people are looking for alternatives. And we're also, the normie market seems to be a big one as well. How many messages have I seen people? Hey, I've never bought a comic. I like the movies or something. I never got a comic, but I bought this. This is my first comic. We've read so many of those that said that. So we're being able to appeal to both of them by simply them knowing the creator and knowing that the creator doesn't hate them. but also giving them something to be enthusiastic about, because that passion, I believe, is something that is like they catch on to that too when they see you care as much about a medium as maybe they would potentially care about it, which I think is the big disconnect now with the big two. I feel like the support, and this should never be like that, where the supporters of said product care more about it than the folks that control the product. You know what I mean? As far as like the sanctity or of it or anything like that. So we're just giving or attempting to give people what it is that they certainly want, and it's not even a rocket science, believe it or not. So I'm just so thankful to be again in this position.
Walk me through a little bit, because like I said, I think so many of us as comic book fans have just dreamed of writing our own books or, starting our own comic book company. But now you're way out of the realm of theory, of the ideas. You have actually done it. So what are some of the steps and some of the processes that you've had to go through to actually go from idea, I want to start a comic book company, to holy shit, I have a comic book company?
Yeah.
How do we get from A to B there?
Man, it was so much work. I mean, it was a lot of learning that we did along the way, because this isn't my first creative project. It's not even the first kind of business related thing, business kind of creative that I've done. But there's nothing like this that I had done, as far as you're talking about trying to maintain ownership of everything, keeping as much as you can in house. And then again, giving people the product it was that I think they would have wanted. It started with me. I know how I operate and how I'm wired. So I said, you know what? I am going to, for the first time, publicly tell people I'm about to do this. And that was about a little over a year. And I said, I'm going to do it. So what that did was it forced, because now people they started asking about it. So it forced me to have to actually commit to it. That was me saying, all right, you're giving yourself a standard. Now you have to go live to it. And I started, of course, with the art stuff, with the creative stuff, world building. I have a big series Bible that I had entries, started developing characters, and I spent hours upon hours, days and days and days really developing that. And then I started looking for, like, okay, putting out the call to doing the art stuff. And like, hey, I'm looking for people to do interiors and all of that. And so that process kind of started simultaneously. I wanted to make sure that we had a foundation. I didn't want to get off to a rocky start there, where I was in a position that I was not ready for. And I then ended up saying, you know what? I got lawyers and all these folks that are involved to make sure that the foundation is built and it's done the right way, so I don't have to come back to this and be out of a whole lot of money. So we were taking care of the business stuff, thousands of dollars that I spent with lawyers, business setups, and all of that. And we got finally that going as we were looking for the artists and everything. So the easier part, I'm not going to say it's easy. Having an idea, putting a pen to paper and drawing those stories out. Yeah, that takes some level of obviously creativity and talent and all of that. But really the most difficult part was have to come into terms with, okay, you wanted to keep it independent. It costs independent money, and having to justify spending $30,000 at a time. There's a $50,000 charge here, because I have to go from, oh yeah, we got to get it printed. I'm got to get a warehouse. Oh, I have to get a website built. And I wanted to take the transparency that you saw from crowd funds, but I didn't want to crowd fund. And I had to build all those functions on my own site instead of using an external. That was an issue. You know what I mean? And that cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. And, before I knew it, I was on up with $200,000 just to make this bad boy happen. So that I wouldn't recommend people just go doing stuff like that, because it's a lot of money. I obviously had an advantage of having a personality, having done creative projects. So I had a rapport that I was already building with my audience. I've never let my audience down from the creative standpoint. So they had seen me and they saw me grow. But, you can't cut corners if you want to do it the right way. And I made sure that I did not do that. So you have to understand, though, if you're not wanting someone else that has money to be in control of it, it's going to take your money to spend it. So even you can have all the creative stuff in the world, but at the end of the day, if you don't know it, you probably want to get a team of people or someone next to you that can kind of understand the ins and outs of the business side. But it's going to take some money, man. This is not a cheap hobby at all, man, at all.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into the one thing that people are really looking at right now, especially when you go on the website. It's the fact that you can't have a comic book company without an actual comic book. The first book in your whole, universe is going to be ISOM. You're
Mhm.
doing this in not just, single issues. So it's going to be a larger, more graphic novel
Correct.
type of book for crowdfunding purposes. Let's go ahead and jump into that. What inspired the story? What
Mhm.
came first, the idea of the company and then the characters in the book, or was it vice versa?
It was almost simultaneously because we were building, like I said, the foundation for the company, and I was doing. I started off like, well, first thing was a lot of the creative stuff, but when I got to a point to where it was like, okay, it's safe to kind of start worrying about the business stuff. I was still like building my universe Bible, but I started with something. It was a thing that I was trying to accomplish and make it be something that people that are comic book folks can identify, so it has some level of familiarity to it, but I obviously wanted to focus on originality. So you'll learn more about the character. I'm not going to say that we're going to go through its full origin or anything, but you'll learn more about the character and all that stuff within this book, and some of the other characters that of course certainly introduced. But I have a series Bible entry for every single one of those, so they're already detailed out, even though the full story is not being told there. So I again wanted to give them something familiar, but also wanted to keep some level of originality. And I think we with the whole art team and everybody that the creative team, we made something kind of happen where we were able to honor both of those without it being like so recognizable that it felt cheap, uninteresting, and oh, I've already seen that. But also someone that is a comic guy can say that's something that I want to get into.
Could you give us just maybe a little preview without
Yeah.
revealing too much of just what this story is all about? Like, what kind of comic fan do you think will be attracted to the story in particular, outside of just people that are supporting you because they want to see what's going on here?
Right. So Isom, is this character. He's a what is known in our kind of universe, they're called accept. So there's people that are identified as having kind of special abilities, or something like that. And of course, there was a period of time, which you'll learn about later, where he had got his abilities, and then he decided that, of course, he was going to do the hero thing. At some point, events happened, which you'll learn more about, and that he didn't want to do it anymore. And now he lives on the outskirt of the city in Texas, and doing his own thing on his own ranch. So this is the story of, well, he gets this call from his sister, and they have this family friend who has gone missing, and that family friend was interning at Avery Silman, aka Isom's, at his sister's like business. It's called Projexis. This is the name of that company that she's. I can't wait for y'all to learn more about that. And she's asking him, hey, can you go look into this? Because last time I checked, she was hanging out with this other, guy by the name of Darren Fontano, who was an old friend of Avery. So he ends up going back into the city, and that's symbolic, by the way, to talk to, of course, Darren Fontano, and that's kind of where the story kind of goes into. I was not going to do some sort of intergalactic world shattering I didn't want to do any of that stuff yet. I'm like, dude, we got a universe to build from the ground up. And I've always admired what people deem as street level characters, because to me they're more difficult to write because you can't be as flashy with it. You have to figure out kind of how you can tell a story that resonates and really focus. Really have to focus certainly on the story. So that was my challenge there. I was like, how do I do that? And that's what ISOM does. So if you are into those characters, and you still get to see some very cool characters, even more powerful ones in this story, but it's about ISOM at the end of the day and his journey, and what this whole conflict, if there is to be one, happens when he goes back into the city.
One thing that I just love about the company you've started here is that this overall philosophy you have, and you actually have a code of ethics posted on the website,
Mhm.
which I'm pretty sure Marvel or DC have never had anything like that for the readers. Maybe
I don't
the
think
opposite.
they know what ethics are at this point.
I mean, they have their own brand, I guess
Those
you could
went out
say.
the window a long time ago.
But could you break down basically?
Yeah.
It's not technically a contract, but the verbal contract that you're
Right.
making with potential readers. You're telling them, look, if you agree to come in and check this out. This is sort of our promise to you.
Yeah. And that was important to me because I wanted to have a set of expectations and standards that we are supposed to live up to as a company. And this is also something that I myself I'm so passionate about. If anybody watch my videos knows I've griped about some of the things that I feel are issues there. And that's what the code of ethics was. It was something that we're gonna put in every book. We're going to have that public because I want people to be able to hold us to it. Like if there's something that is not in line with that, well, you know that I'm letting you down and the company's letting you down. But we talk about some of those aspects of respecting the customer. It's funny, like I talked about this on my channel the other day, and how even to this day, I think it's the most bizarre thing that we live in this kind of weird day and age where a movie can be out, right, or about to come out, and the star of it can like publicly shame the audience.
Yeah.
Like, and like they're like doing it confidently. Like
or like Disney with Obi-Wan, like shaming anyone who didn't like Riva. It's now you're racist. Like, oh,
that
hold on, I just watched your show once.
That's bizarre. Like I still to this day don't really understand that. But so many people, unfortunately, these various companies do that. So that's what we were talking about with the first number one is respecting the customer. Like you respect me, I respect you. You respect the company respects you. We're not going to sit up here and insult you and be gaslighting you about things because we know and we understand that, look, I am not owed your dollar at all. This is something that we have to earn. And we're going to respect you because when you support us, you get more product, of course, out of it, but that's not anything that you're under any obligation to do. It's something you go out of your way voluntarily to do. And I want to make sure I honor that. Now, the other 2 and 3 aspects, when you talk about canon and continuity in this comprehensive timeline, one of my biggest frustrations have been definitely with DC and this multiversal bullcrap where they use it as this cheap tool to tell stories that, number one, don't matter, or to do some of the swaps and stuff that we had talked about. It seems nowadays it's more, hey, well, we don't want the writer to have to ever like read a book. So we can just give him a book so they can just have no frame of reference and just tell whatever story. Now Batman's Antifa now.
And now they've done this Orwellian spin now where they say where they say that everything matters is like the new storyline. So but when everything matters, like meaning every random story, every multiversal, whatever, it's also kind of saying so nothing matters.
Exactly. So and that was the biggest part of it. Is like I'm trying to give people something like when they buy a book, they know that stuff is a piece of history, that arc happened, that story happened, that panel happened, whatever it is. They know that is not going to be wiped away with some like time travel element or multiverse or something like that. Like
there's no multiverse of Rippaverse coming.
No, no multiverse. That's all that it is. And yeah, that makes us have to be on point. We have to communicate. If I bring a writer in, I have to get them up to speed. This is why we have that the Universe Bible entry, and that will continue to grow. It forces us to have to pay attention. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that we won't make a mistake or two. We may very well be, but it certainly won't be intentional. We want to really pay attention to that detail. This was a sort of geek nerd culture stuff. That's what it was anyway. That those attention to details people cared about. You know what I mean? And I just didn't want to have another company because you think about it right now. So many people asked me back when I was doing my commentary all the time, hey man, I like Batman and I like the idea of him. I seen a show or something, I seen a movie, where do I start? And I'm like, oh shit.
That's a
you
tough
gotta go
one.
back to this one, but that will take you back to 1941. But if you really want to know where it is, there was a reboot where they restarted, and it wasn't necessarily a prequel, but it was
there's also year one, but we're not really sure if that counts or if that really happened.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to give people something that can say, all right, man, for us, when people ask us or someone asks you as a fan and they want you can say, hey, you like this character, start here. And
crazy idea. Start at the number one.
Right, exactly. Start at number one. It's an insane idea. And I think that makes it so much easier for people, new readers that want to get in, and also the people that have been in from the jump. They know that knowledge base is meaningful, and that's stuff that's worth paying attention to detail. I've got a lot of great responses about that, about people being excited just about us mentioning that, which goes to show how important it is to so many people.
You do have a lot of haters out there, Eric. I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. But what do you say to those that are saying, like, I've seen some ridiculous shit, like, Republicans hired
it's
Eric July
an
to
anti-woke. It's an anti-woke
Yeah.
company. They're right wing. I mean, the one thing that I really
Insane.
appreciated in your teaser for everything was when you said, "Listen, like I've got my beliefs. You all know who I am if you're
Yeah.
here, probably. But this is for the sake of writing good books.
Yep.
And everything that you've said is about writing good books, in
Yep.
which people can just pick it up, and they don't need to know who you are, Eric.
Yep, exactly.
They just want something that's gonna be entertaining and fun that they feel good about spending their money on."
It's a simple concept, and they're saying that as a coping mechanism, these haters, to kind of protect the old guard. I think this was something that they were always afraid of, which is why I said this was way bigger than me. It's somebody that was going to make a splash like that so relatively quickly, and it diffuses a lot of their arguments. So they look at it like, okay, again, I have to build some new narrative, and I need him to be something. And it's like, dude, I have my code of ethics. It's public. We have the trailers. We have the campaign story. We have everything you need to know. Like I don't even have to say much. I can just give you a link or a screenshot to whatever you think that this is. That's not what's going on here. But it's like the names that I've been called ugly stuff before, obviously just being a public figure, but holy crap. But if you would have asked me, like, yeah, you're going to get called the most egregious things probably ever in a short period of time, I've said, I'm a commentator, so you get me for that. But for starting a comic book company and just simply saying I'm going to give customers what it is, that's the mildest thing that you could try to criminalize me for. So yeah, these haters are out full force. But I think it's more speaking to what it is that this means. So they're going to try to delegitimize it. They're going to try to demonize that. And I know it just makes them so aggravated that, well, everything that they said we couldn't do and we shouldn't do, we did it. And it's surpassing expectations, and it's still climbing. Like it hasn't even stopped.
It's a weird flex, because I feel like the same people saying that about you now are the same people that probably a couple years ago would have said, "Oh, well, what are you doing about it? You're sitting on the sidelines complaining." Like, well, so which one do you want? You want me to sit on the sidelines or do it?
Exactly. That's a huge part of it. It's like, okay, so I said, and like, hey, you stop complaining. You always talk about how bad Marvel and DC is, and then I do my own thing, and it's literally the same guys that are like, oh, well, it'll never, he won't get, he'll never. I had people saying that, oh, it'll never come out. Then it came out, and then those people moved the goalposts. Well, it won't do that good. Then it made $1 million in a day, and now they're trying to figure out where's the next? Well, it probably won't even come out for another 2 years, like all these other crowdfunders. Like, nope, the book's already done. It's already done. That was the point. Well, it's not gonna be good. Like, so they'll keep moving it no matter where it is that we kind of go. It's gonna keep going and keep going. This isn't just about, like I said, even from a creative standpoint, the two people that are involved in the book, Gabe El-Taib and Cliff Richards, these are industry veterans. These are people that have been in. These are not some rinky-dink amateurs or something like that. These guys are amazing artists and amazing at what it is that they do. They have been around the block. They understand what it takes to have something that is presentable and professional looking. So even from the story standpoint, definitely Gabe of all people, he would have told me, I don't know if this is going to work or anything. This doesn't make sense. No. Everybody's like, oh, this is awesome. Even they get their commissions, they make their money, and they're still like, when is it coming out? Gabe would always call it, Cliff, when is it coming? Because they were proud of the work. They were proud of the work, and they wanted people to see it as this project. People were getting more and more enthusiastic about it. Like, he's like, hey, the people wanted to get it. They wanted to see it, and they wanted to get it out. And that is a testament to the people that we've surrounded ourselves with and how good this material is. I don't do anything half-tailed, man. If I was going to do it, I was going to do it full throttle. So we can't fail. It's not going to be bad. It's not going to suck. Everything about it, even if you don't like this bit or this bit, I'm not saying it's going to be the book of the world or, century or anything like that. But, it's going to be good. It's going to be good because we have people that know what they're doing.
How did you go about connecting with some of these artists that you're working with pitching them on this idea? I mean, were these connections you had made over the years, or did you sort of just cold send them a script and say, hey, come on, you want to do this? How'd that all play out?
Well, for Gabe, he was one of the first time artists that we got involved on it. And Gabe, for those of you that don't know, the Son of Kal-El stuff with Gay Superman and all that was a project that he was on. And that
I'm
did it.
sorry, I get triggered each time I remember that
I
title
know,
actually exists. And I love Tom Taylor, but he
Yeah.
has just gone so like
Another
I don't
example
know
of a guy
where
that
he
just
went.
went somewhere else with it, man. But Gabe came out of that project and he got to a point to where, look, I'm getting paid decently. I'm paying them better, but I'm getting paid decently, and I can't do this anymore. Like, this is like, from a principle standpoint, I just can't continue to do that.
Know the
So,
feeling.
yeah, and I was like, it was just a perfect time. I mean, I believe God, like, it's God sent, literally, and I was like, hey, I'm starting my own company. I'll pay you well. Be part of the team. And he was like, as risky as it was during that time, I think that was like right before he was about to walk away from that, or to set off a nuke and just start publicly, because he knew once he started publicly talking about it, it was over.
I mean,
Like, they wasn't not going to commission him for anything anymore, and his contract was going to be, they were going to either pay it out or what. He knew what time it was. But I assured him that we got something special here, man. Work with me, and I'll keep you paid, man. He's an awesome dude. And Cliff was kind of a more of a thing. Like, I needed a good interior. I knew I needed someone that was a vet. I had to have this presented like well. And it was one of those things where, I pitched the idea. He was like, I got this window, and now he's addicted, man. He's like, man, he loves the character. He talks about him all the time. Him and I talk all the time. And again, seeing them being enthusiastic about it really just assured how stoked folks were for this project.
I'll let you speak to exactly kind of like maybe how things were playing out that first day of the launch, and like what your expectations really were in your mind. And I'm just kind of curious, like, what that day was like for you. I think that was just yesterday. It seems like a while ago.
Yeah.
But what was the day like for you as you just saw these numbers ticking up and ticking up? I mean, how far beyond your expectations did this go?
Oh man, I wish I could quantify it, man. It's just so difficult to do that, because look, you saw the campaign goals $100,000. I knew we were gonna make more than that. I knew that. I just wanted to set something realistic and whatnot. And even though I spent more than that, if I'd have made that, I'd been like, all right, well, for a phrase, a little venture, that's gonna be all right. I'm thinking, at least, we could make a lot, during that window of time, basically 2.5 months. I'm like, all right, we can do a little something with that. And for us to get to where we were at, and destroy the goal within that first hour, the campaign goal within the first hour, and that was with the site issues that we had. That was, if anything was stressing me out about it, it was that. It was, the server team. We was all hands on deck trying to get this thing working.
I'm pretty sure I almost accidentally bought like 5 copies.
Yeah, it was.
But I got my receipt eventually.
I did have a weird thing. Yeah, I had random things coming into my cart, but I was like, I'm just gonna wait this out. It'll get sorted out. We're gonna be okay.
Yeah, and then we did it. Big shout out to my team for, as crazy as it was and as many hits as we got. They were able to get those issues resolved relatively quickly, and now it's pretty much smooth. We turned off a couple of features that we're going to get turned back on as we get the more efficient code, but we got it working. People have no issues ordering or anything now. Password reset issues have been resolved, all of that sort of stuff. So big shout out to my team, certainly for that. But as those numbers were coming in, I knew it was insane, because I had that whale tier, right? That $5,000 tier, when I'm like, that's only there for, I don't know if Elon Musk follows me or something like that. He'll, he might think it's a good little troll, and he'll spend it. But those were gone. It was 10 of them, and they were all gone within the first 2 hours. And I was like, what in the hell? What is this?
Who are these people?
Yeah, like, who are these people, and what is this? And then you had things that I didn't know was gonna sell out like as far quick as they did. Like, I didn't know so many people were gonna like cover. I knew people were gonna like it, but cover B was as popular as what it was, that people wanted that. The Yaira on, and I was like, what the hell am I doing here? And it just got more and more real. And I was just scrambling to make $1 million in a day. Essentially, I never anticipated that. Straight up, I would have taken obviously $1 million anyway for 75 days, but I did not anticipate that. I never anticipated, and now that's why we're scrambling, because the stretch goals got destroyed. So we got to sit up here and get those ready to go. I got all those damn stretch goals I have to sit up here and go through. Now I wasn't anticipate that to be all done.
Now I have to do all this stuff.
Yeah, now I got to do it, and I don't have time. Like, now I have to start working on it right now. I got to expand my team. I got to do all of this stuff, and I feel good about it, though, and it's a testament to this our little corner of the internet, but also how this is very doable. I know a lot of folks doom and gloomers just like, look, man, the old guard is the old guard. They have all the money, they got the big deep pockets. You'll never be able to compete. So in doubt, and to see just people stoked on it, and to see that's why I wanted to have the public revenue figure up there, because I wanted people to be able to just see it with your own eyes, what we are capable of doing. And people are stoked on that. And that's what this is all about. It's what it's all about. Yeah, I'm not a guy that I'm not going to spend the money to go buy a Lamborghini or something. Like, no, this is all reinvestment into the company. I got warehouses, I got fees to recoup, I got warehouse stuff to get, I got product to, like, we're working. Like, that's what this is all about. But it shows we can absolutely win.
One thing I'm just kind of curious about when you think about where this company may go. I mean, do you see this always being Eric July's baby with Eric July's characters and Eric July's universe, or do you see potentially bringing other creators in, having other characters that aren't owned by you? Or where do you envision this as? Do you envision it more as a comic label or more just a contained universe?
It'll be a contained universe. I got to ask a lot of that because people look at that and it's like, well, maybe he can assist me with that, and I'm like, well. I'm not against. I'm gonna let people in on all the process. I'm gonna do a content series where I let everybody know how exactly I did it, because I want people to be able to implement that in their own little plans if that's something that they can certainly do. But this was supposed to be, I talk about the one universe or anything like that. So yeah, there'll be people that'll write for us, but it'll be about the Rippaverse. Those characters will be the Rippaverse stuff. A lot of characters will be the characters that I created, even if I don't write their first book or their first appearance or something like that. They'll still be the brains behind the operation. So I want to expand. I want to bring on good creatives that can come in and write and do everything it is that they do. But we want to make sure it is in line with our vision. So I want to get a roadmap out to people to show folks like what our plans are, because now it's like, this is real. So we got work to do. So that's pretty much where we're at with it.
For sure. Last thing I'm kind of curious about, all these sales were all online for the launch here. So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are or what your plans are, how far that has gone on your end in terms of a physical presence in comic shops. Are we going to see you at conventions? Like, where are we going to be able to find the Rippaverse outside of just ordering online?
Yeah, we're working on trying to get kind of some easy, streamlined contact process for retailers. I've already been contacted by a few people that want to be able to sell it. So we'll sell them a bunch of them with a deal, and they can profit and all that sort of stuff. We want to be able to do that. So we want it to end up in stores for those comic book shops that want them, on or offline for that matter. Now for the other stuff, as far as like appearing, it looks like that's on the horizon. Cons, doing all that sort of stuff. I'm 100% up for that. We've done recent meetups with
make your own, just do RipperCon.
That's what we were saying. We're like, well, we don't even now we don't really need these other. If we wanted to, we kind of could do our own thing. And even if I just included a bunch of folks that are on our corner of the internet, like these big YouTubers and all that stuff that are on, well, we could easily do that.
Live podcasts. I mean, you can make a whole thing out of it.
That would be relatively easy. So I do want to do that, because we've had recent meetups that I participated, like Friday Night Tights at the Dallas Fan Expo, and doing all that and seeing and interacting with people. I love that type of stuff and meeting fans, and I absolutely love that. So I would love to do that, making that make sense. If we can do that, I'll appear where I'm wanted for sure. And it just feels good to be back in the creative space again, and just giving people what it is that they want, no matter what it was, music, comics. I just love doing it.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited. I've got my copy. Should be coming in the mail next month or so. I know Remzo's got his locked in, so I'm stoked to read them. Why don't you just let everybody know where else they can find you, where they can find your show, and of course, if they are one of the very few people that haven't ordered one yet, where they can order some Rippaverse comics and gear. Or I don't know if you have gear yet. It's just comics right now. Right?
We got a couple of apparel. We're going to be adding some new things. I know that we had some stretch goals that say, hey, we'll add some new merchandise items.
Eric, stop! You're about to take all my money.
So yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna
there
have
goes
to,
the second
has to
print.
be a
Patreon
point.
is all gone now.
we're gonna get those because a lot of the merchandise stuff, because we know folks that are, they're all American printed, and like the guys do, for example, my merchant, like the band's merchandise, people that know the good quality of backwards merchandise, they're right up the street from me. So we can get these stuff like apparel and stuff done quickly, so it can still be ready by the fulfillment process. So we're putting some more of that stuff out. Of course, you can go to rippaverse.com to get all information on that. The social media team on all forms of social media, be it Instagram or Twitter, has done a great job of communicating issues, even with the like site functions and all of that. So if you want to stay up to date as far as what it is that we're doing, what's the status of this order and all of that stuff, yeah, go to rippaverse.com. And we'll be able to get you set up. Of course, I'm at ericdjuly.com everywhere. If you want to certainly follow me and keep up with me, but enough about me. Go support some Rippaverse stuff. Support what it is that we've been able to build.
All right, Eric, thanks so much, man. Congratulations again. And I would say good luck, but I'm not even sure if it's necessary. You're already crushing it, but good luck with everything else. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to do down the road.
We need it. Again, appreciate you having me. And it also feels good, Mark, to double back kind of and just talk about like comic book related stuff.
Yeah.
We've been in the same space for a while now on the other side. So it's cool to do this as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're definitely looking forward to it, man. Keep up the great work, dude. And we'll keep an eye on the Rippaverse.
All right, man. That sounds good, man. Appreciate you.
Take care.